and it was all sorts of a mess. So I'm just going to start again. Apologies. So firstly, I am back. I'm in the UK. The store is up and running. Everything is back on track. And I hope everybody has a very blessed Halloween and a very wonderful Halloween. And however you are celebrating, maybe over the next few days, over the weekend, I hope you have a great time. You know what? I'm going to actually start off just talking a little bit about my Halloween first. Maybe that's what I should have done. Maybe that's what the technology didn't like. It's like give everybody a little insight into your Halloween so far. So I do have photographs, and they're going to be going on Patreon, and I will share it all with my patrons of all levels of what I've been doing, because I think there's some really cool pictures. So I went to a pumpkin patch today, and you've got to pick your own pumpkin in the pumpkin patch. We went with the little one that we live with, so of course he's super excited. And in the pumpkin patch, where I found an amazing pumpkin, by the way, because of course I did, there was black nightshade. So this witch went for a pumpkin and came back with pumpkin and black nightshade, and is drying it out right now, and it's going to be an offering for the Morrigan tomorrow, and I'm super excited about that. We also had some really cool little cupcakes. Well, we had one each, and I had this tiny little marzipan jack-o'-lantern on, and they were so well done, and they were delicious and tasty. So I've got photographs of that to go up on Patreon, so you guys can see all levels. Everybody from $1 and above can see it all, because it's Halloween, right? We're going to share all that good stuff. And they had a big fire pit for people to toast marshmallows, which was super cool. And then they were doing food and stuff, and it was really cute. It was really lovely. And then I put on some makeup, and I've come here to talk to you guys today. It's still not updating on Facebook, so when people are commenting, I am not seeing it. So I may or may not see any comments. I can see people liking things. I cannot see comments or anything. So it may suddenly update me. I'm not ignoring anybody who's saying hello, because I noticed as I shut the other one down, 3 people had said hello, and it hadn't told me until after the fact. So hi to anybody who's saying hello. I hope you have a wonderful Halloween. By all means, share your Halloween in the comments. I'm hoping they might update before the video ends. Technology. I've got my little Halloween cat pumpkin on, and tomorrow we are going to announce the winner of the giveaway. So if you've been following the Halloween advent calendar, not many people have followed all the way to the end, which has been really sad, but I mean, it's been kind of disappointing. But if you've been commenting on all of those videos, if you've been watching them, liking them, you've got the most chance of winning the giveaway, and we will announce a winner tomorrow. I have extra goodies on top of the excess jewelry, so there's a whole host of different things that one winner will get tomorrow, announcing it on Halloween. I'm also going to a ritual on the Saturday. I have got a comment, and you. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you've just got out of surgery. I hope you heal really fast and well. I'm so glad I can see a comment though. That just worked. Heal well. Have a lovely recovery period, and I hope you're doing well. This will be up on here and on YouTube afterwards, so don't worry about it. It will be on, so you can catch up if you so wish, if you so desire. I'm just glad it's finally updated and I can see comments. Hooray. So the subject today, quite outside of Halloween, apart from the fact I'm going to a ritual dance today and I'm excited, is help. I cannot see or hear spirits. And this was a question that was posed by a viewer, and they were saying, could you do a video on it? I've had a couple of requests for videos, which is great, by the way. If anybody has any more requests, please just ask me. I don't bite hard unless you ask nicely. Anyway, so this was a viewer question, like I said, and they were struggling with the idea of, they were having a really tough time connecting to the idea of spirits. Human spirits, hello! finally we can see comments. Hello, welcome. And they were struggling with it coming up to Samhain, which we're nearly there, although a lot of us celebrate Samhain over the weekend or the whole month, if you're me, and maybe beyond into November. Thank you very much. This is one of my favorite makeup looks, with the grey lips and the like pink. Yeah, I love it. Felt very Halloween. So thank you very much. Everyone who watches this on YouTube, by the way, won't be able to see the comments, and I'll just look like a crazy person. So it was coming up to Samhain for them, as it still is, and the idea that they couldn't hear or see or sense spirits, they weren't sure if they were feeling blocked, because they felt like they might have been hearing and feeling spirits before. Chris and I already talked about the idea of mental health around spirits and things like that in a previous video. So for this one, I'm going to be talking about what it means to be blocked when you're trying to contact any kind of spirits. Now, if you're on my Patreon, you already know, and you're going to really know once I've finished the other video, because I finally got that it's not just human spirits, it's all spirits, plant devas, plant spirits, animal spirits. It is the spirits of the world around us, and they are all connected through the spiritual ecosystem. They vibrate, they hum, they are both corporal and non-corporal. They are connected to the spiritual ecosystem, a big part of that, and also retain a sense of individuality, particularly when it comes to the human spirits, the ones who are the bearers of memory, the ones who carry the memories of their other incarnations in this lifetime. Now, I've had many different discussions over the course of my ongoing spiritual journey with different people, and through the progression of discussion and debate. Hello, welcome. I'm so glad I can see comments. I haven't been able to until now. And through the progression of my path, I've begun to wonder whether or not time is in fact not linear, and it's wibbly wobbly jelly on a plate. And in fact, I have begun to wonder if we perhaps exist in multiple places, in multiple parallel universes, in multiple timelines, all at the same time. And the soul is more like a nexus, like a hub, like a brain stem, and all of the pathways go into different lives. So we're one major soul having thousands of lifetimes of experiences, and it's all happening concurrently, and or at least semi-concurrently, because obviously time is a human construct that we've made up to order the universe. And so when we are experiencing deja vu, past life syndrome energies, and traveling and journeying and having visions of that, if we are in fact picking up different memories, or memories that we are sort of simultaneously experiencing, like crossed wires in the brain. And this has been something that has made my brain go for a little while now. I keep trying to get around my head, but it kind of makes a lot of sense when I sit down and I kind of try and map it out in my mind. And so with that being said, what are spirits? Are we all part of this grand spiritual ecosystem? Now, it's very possible that spirits are those echoes, those very real, tangible, cognizant, sentient beings from timelines of which we are a part of. I made Chris's brain go whoop the other day, whether or not like we can. She talks about whether we can be our own ancestors and be reborn into our own ancestral line. And then so I was talking about this, and then Chris's mind was like, oh no, like poof, because if then we're experiencing our own memories, we're experiencing our own ancestors' lives through the interconnectedness of our own all those brain stems surging around into the soul. So we're actually always experiencing our own ancestral energies through it. And so it's very possible, I feel though, that we don't all live all of us concurrently. Like, I feel like there must be rest periods, right? So if I am tendril A, for argument's sake, or tendril J, shall we say, tendril Joey, the shimmy tendril of my existence, of my soul, that shimmy tendril might go through many lifetimes in many different places. So it might kind of plug into this reality, experience this lifetime, and then maybe it goes back into soul and rests and, you know, digests all those experiences, and maybe reaches out to different people experiencing different lifetimes to share that experience in a different way, but we are all ultimately connected through the spiritual ecosystem. So all the many different souls can, you know, touch each other's lives and sort of get onto the fiber network of souls and like tap away at somebody else's, like, hi, you are now downloading this spirit's message into your brain. And that's kind of how spirit energy works. We often think we're crazy because we hear voices, right? And on the surface of it, it's always something that a lot of people are super hesitant to talk about, because telling people you hear voices is not usually received well. But that's usually how spirits communicate, through the presentation of like a thought, a flash in the back of your mind, that's almost like a memory, but it doesn't belong to you. And that's why I've talked about this interconnectedness of these highways of spiritual information. I'm trying really hard not to completely wig people out, because it wigs me out too, and I'm like, that way and 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 that. So I understand if I'm confusing people. I'm trying not to. I'm trying not to confuse myself, to be honest. I get a bit lost in this thought process because it's way bigger than me. And I will just answer that. Do you think you can be aware of a parallel life while in this one? Yes. You know, when you get deja vu, I think that's a very basic, like a memory coming down the soul line, of I've been here before, or I've seen this before, or I've had a flash of memory, because maybe this tendril is reborn into this timeline, right? Like maybe this tendril of self is in this reality, in this timeline. It might not go straight forward like linearly. It might go back in time and forward in time, but I feel like the deja vu and getting past life memory in this timeline that we know exists is likely that. So it's likely that we're actually living out parallel lives, and we actually get memories coming down the soul stem, and we get the echoes of it. And I think it's possible to travel those soul stems, those soul lines, and experience past lives, as they've come to be called, because that's how we structure time. Whereas we might be living out a parallel life in a ancient Egyptian setting in this timeline, because this is a timeline that this piece of our soul is aware of. And we then might have very vivid dreams that are so real, and they make so much sense, but we can't fully understand where we got it from, but it feels really real. Or we are seeing through someone else's eyes, which feels like it's us, but it's not us. That to me is very much indicative of that syndrome. So how do we connect to spirits if we have managed to block ourselves? So I think when we block ourselves, there's a number of things that is happening. One, we've gotten our own way. Two, we need a rest, and we're not actually ready for the spiritual exercise of connecting to other souls, other spirits, other energies. And bearing in mind, as I said, it's not just human spirits and energies that we can connect with. We're trying to talk in a language which we think is the one that we should be using, but it's not for us. There is, that's exactly what I mean. Experiences of you back in a Victorian time might well be that you are living out a parallel existence in a different part of your soul in the Victorian era right now. Kind of blows my mind when I get into this. I'm like, is this possible? Am I crazy? probably, but it still could be possible, right? So the one that I think is most common is that people want to connect with different souls, different spirits, different energies, receive messages from loved ones who are perhaps in a rest state or are watching over the rest of their kin for a little bit. And maybe we have set amounts of rest period. And to be honest, I feel like some souls might get to the point where they evolve to the point where they would rather be guides to other souls. They would rather have the discussions. They'd rather be watchers than participating. And maybe there's a process of, for certain lengths of time, such as they are, or a certain length of progression of evolution, souls like to have conversations with others, watch over others, and so on and so forth. And most of the time, I think it's a barrier in language, because those souls are connected into the spiritual ecosystem in a way that we are, but we don't really realize it, and we definitely don't perceive it while we're having these earthly incarnation experiences. Because whilst we are just as plugged into the spiritual ecosystem, we get caught up in everyday life. We get caught up in the day-to-day. We get caught up in what we're doing, how we're growing, how we're evolving, what we're experiencing, the tactile, the things that preoccupy us, the things that distract us. And spirits who are in the spiritual ecosystem don't have that. And they probably are plugged into way more information in that nexus. So they have much more of an understanding of the big picture. And also then they get cryptic. You know that meme about spirits, why you gotta be so cryptic? I feel like it's because they're plugged into everything, and then they're remembering how to communicate with you. And they're like, oh, well, they should know that I meant this from this very cryptic thing I said, because I know I meant it with, seeing all these many screens at once, whereas you're looking at one. And also there are different ways of people communicating with spirits, and clairvoyance, clairaudience, and clairsentience are the three main ones that people talk about, which is to see. Clairvoyance is to see, clairaudience is to hear, and clairsentience is to sense. There are different energies around that, though. There's also like a scent, and you might have a combination of things. And people get very structured on how they think they should hear or see spirits. And I think people, for example, with clairvoyance, I think people think I should be seeing spirits like I see my hairbrush before me, and that should be the same, right? And that's not often how it happens. You might see something on the physical plane, but sometimes it's like a flash and it's gone, and people ignore it because it's a flash and it's gone. Or it might actually work, which is much more what I get, which is impressions of the mind. And that is when it's, like I said, a memory, which is not your own almost, or it's like a live feed memory that's happening. And sometimes people really struggle with this, like I said, because there is the crazy label. And I often find the most interesting moments for people who do experience spirit work is when they are getting messages for other people that they can have no way of knowing, none, unless they are talking to a spirit who is tapped in, and they are tapped in through the spiritual ecosystem in such a way that they are able to receive messages from others outside of their own family line, which is all interconnected at some point anyway, but still the immediate family line, which is easier to connect to for a lot of people because they have an idea of who they are in a much more real sense. Yeah, Jenny says, I see outlines of people in the shadows. That's one way for sure. There are many different ways. Some people just hear them. They hear disembodied voices, or they hear voices in their minds, like in their mind's ear, like in their mind's eye, like in their back here. That's not them. And again, crazy label is right there, and they're afraid of it. Like, am I hearing? And a lot of mediums struggle with this. A lot of them do, because they don't want to be going up to complete strangers being like, so was your grandma like this? Was she like this? Did she smoke a cigar? Did she used to say these things? Was there a pink carpet? Was there a rocking chair? She's got a message for you. I feel nuts right now. And a lot of us have definitely been through that experience when we connect to spirits. And as I said, animal spirits and plant spirits are a little bit different. It's a little bit easier for most people, because plants and animals, they don't do the cryptic "I'm going to pass on messages to other people" thing. It's usually teaching you lessons of self through a different scope of existence. When it comes to being a plant, living like a plant, or an animal, they have very different lessons to teach us. And happy Samhain to you too, Michael, and welcome. And we're probably towards the tail end of this, because I'm running late. I have to go at 9:30, so I will keep an eye on that time. But first lesson, amongst all my crazy trying to explain how I see the cosmos, I confuse myself, so I apologize if everyone else is like, what is she talking about, fool? Don't worry if you don't speak the same death language as everybody else. Spirit communication does not have to look like anything. It doesn't have to sound like anything. It doesn't have to be a particular way, because everybody's love languages, life languages, and death languages can be different. There's been a lot of stress and emphasis lately on the differences of love languages, how people communicate and what they value in terms of love and relationships. And I think that's true for spirits and death languages and how they best communicate. So they might be tactile, you might get a cold breeze, you might get a feeling, you might get an emotional sense, and none of those are really included. It's sometimes in the clairsentience, in the idea of you sense something, like you can feel a spirit's emotions. And I think it's very real for a lot of us when we don't think about it. If you've ever been to a place and it just gives you the heebie frickin' jeebies, and you do not want to be in that place, you don't know why, but it gives you the creeps, and you're like, no, I don't want to be in here, or I want out. I don't like it. It's not great. Ugh. And it quite often, it makes me think that there are spirits there that basically want to be left the hell alone. Some of them get really angry and disembodied, and for all sorts of reasons. Nature spirits can get really angry too, which is not something a lot of people talk about. But if you've ever been in a particular point of the woods and it feels uncomfortable, which is often a really strange experience to those of us who love nature, then that can be why. Because the nature spirits are angry about usually, deforestation or death. And that's one love language, death language, sorry. Love language. Love the trees. Well, I do, but well, we technically all take trees gifts and offerings, right? So that's our love languages to trees. Anyway, death languages. So if you're trying to force yourself to speak somebody else's death language, that might be why you're blocked. And that can go for all sorts of different magical practices. Like if you're trying to follow somebody else's way, their methodology, the way that works for them, maybe go back to the drawing board and feel out where you feel strongest, where you feel naturally gifted, where you feel drawn to. And also maybe look at the reasons of why you're trying to connect to different spirits. Are you trying to do it because it's Samhain and everybody's doing it right now? It's a thing. Because you can actually contact spirits all year round. You can connect to your ancestors and cross those wires of the spiritual ecosystem at any given point. I think one of the main reasons that the veil thins at Samhain is because so many people are focused on the idea of it and they manifest it. So it's a social and cultural sort of collective, that's a lot of C's, consciousness that really creates this ease of connecting to spirits around Samhain, plus the fact that the Muggles are all celebrating with ghost movies and things like that, so they're actually following that wavelength even if they don't believe in the spiritual side. Yeah, sometimes you do get that deep woods feeling of being watched. It's creepy. I've found very angry trees before. Like I seek out very angry trees and try and and try and calm them. I worry about trees' energy so much. So look out for the languages, look out for the idea that you are having to communicate like someone else, and ask why. Are you in grief? Is grief blocking you? Are you not really ready to speak to the spirits that you're trying to speak to? Do you think that it would actually freak you out more if you did have spirit communication? Because it's likely that they know if you're not ready for communication. And if you're ignoring it, whether consciously or not, that might be a thing. Like, the everyday mind can get in the way. You might be receiving messages from spirits like poke, poke, hello, 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 pick up, and you're like, I'm doing the dishes, and you just, you know, you're not paying attention. A lot of us can miss signs. All of us can. Let's face it. We can get caught up in what we're doing, and we're not always spiritually downloading. Sleep can be one way that does happen if you are ignoring spiritual messages from spirits of all kinds, deity, people, plants, etc. You might find that you have recurring dreams and they have weird commonality themes. And that's because when we are in the subconscious state, we are most switched into our psyche, we are most plugged into the spiritual ecosystem. It's way easier to download information and be influenced by those trying to speak to us from within the spiritual ecosystem. So you might find recurring dreams is actually a sign that you are receiving spirit messages, even if you don't think you are. Let's see. And then there is, of course, I mentioned this in the first one, which I stopped, and sometimes you need to sit in the uncomfortable. Sometimes there is a lesson in the not being able to communicate with spirits. Like I said, one, you might not be ready. You might freak out. It might not be time yet. You might be trying to communicate in a language which is not the one that is best for you. You might be trying to be clairvoyant, and actually if you would listen to the feelings and the emotions and the general energies, you'd do much better in following your intuitive connection to the spirits and what you are feeling to be the case. There is a lot of doubt involved. A lot of people doubt themselves because, you know, like I said, they get labeled, and some people feel like it's not their right sometimes, especially if they end up getting messages for other people. It can be a struggle because you feel like you don't have the right to be doing that for other people. Or you might not want that responsibility, which is a fair choice. That's your choice too. So firstly, I would sit in that feeling, that not being able to communicate, that quiet, that discomfort, and try and figure out where that's coming from. Whether or not it's a blockage you've created, whether or not it's not time yet, whether you're trying to communicate in the wrong language, whether there are other things which are more important for your spiritual growth right now. It might not be the path that is best suited to where you're at. You might need different kinds of healing. You might need different kinds of shadow work. It might be you need to look within. And whilst arguably from my perspective, you know, you can look within for spirit communication, it might not be about that right now. It might be about other things. So with that being said, it's 2121. Take that for a magical number. It's a magical number. So I hope I made some kind of sense. I worry I don't, but so I hope everybody has a really beautiful Samhain. I'm going to be taking more pictures and popping them up on Patreon for all you guys on Patreon to see, whether you're $1 or right up to the top. All those pictures are going to be available for people. I might take snippets of the ritual if that's possible as well. And if not, we will be doing some cool Halloween stuff together over there, because that's where that Halloween goodness is going to be. Don't forget to tune in at some point tomorrow to find out who the winner chicken dinner is for the giveaway. It's exciting. And if you haven't checked out the Halloween Advent Calendar videos, you've still got time to answer questions and be in with extra chances to win over there, because the main prize is being picked tomorrow and there are extra goodies that nobody knows about but me. All Halloween themed and along those goodness lines, as well as some homemade goodness. Thank you guys for joining me. here on Starry Eyed Supplies Facebook page. I hope you guys had fun. I hope you have an absolutely amazing Samhain. Feel free at any point to let me know how your Samhain went, whether in the comments section or if you just want to send some messages. I would love to hear from more people. I feel like I don't hear from enough people. I would love to hear some more. So come on, give me a Samhain experiences. Let's chat. And in the meantime, however you communicate with spirits this Samhain, many blessings.